The observation deck of the research vessel Remembrance hummed with the quiet sounds of deep space exploration. Dr. Kira Voss sat at her station, her eyes fixed on the displays that showed nothing but empty space and ancient debris. She had been studying the Vale Nebula sector for 3 months now, cataloging the remains of dead worlds and forgotten civilizations. It was lonely work, but someone had to document what once was. Kira brushed a strand of dark hair from her face and adjusted the sensor array for the 100th time that day. The debris field ahead contained fragments from dozens of extinct species, their stories lost to time. As a xenoarchaeologist, she had dedicated her life to piecing together these cosmic puzzles. But tonight something felt different. The sensor alert chimed softly. Kira leaned forward, expecting another piece of ancient wreckage. Instead, her screen filled with data that made no sense. A signal. Not just any signal, but one that registered on frequencies humanity had abandoned thousands of years ago. Her heart began to race. "Computer, verify signal origin," she commanded. The synthetic voice responded after a moment. "Signal origin. Coordinate set matching historical old Earth final position. Timestamp indicates pre-Exodus era. Age 8,247 years. Kira felt the blood drain from her face. That was impossible. Old Earth had been consumed by its dying sun over 8 millennia ago. Nothing remained there except superheated plasma and scattered atoms. There should be no signal, no trace. Nothing but the memory of what humanity had lost. She called her first officer, Commander Ratch, a tall alien with blue-gray skin and 3 eyes. He arrived within minutes, his expression skeptical as always. "Another ghost signal?" Ratch asked, peering at her displays. "Doctor, we have been through this. Old Earth is gone. These readings are likely interference from the nebula gases." "Look at the encoding," Kira insisted, pulling up the detailed analysis. "This isn't random interference. There's structure here, patterns. And Ratch, it's getting stronger." That caught his attention. Signals didn't get stronger over time unless something was actively broadcasting them. But from where? From what? Over the next several hours, Kira worked feverishly to decode the signal. Her hands flew across the controls as she stripped away layers of cosmic interference and temporal degradation. What she found beneath made her gasp. The signal contained memories. Human memories. She could see fragments of them in the data streams, encoded in ways she had never encountered before. A child laughing in a park, rain falling on city streets, the taste of coffee on a cold morning. These weren't just recordings. They were lived experiences, complete with emotions and sensations, somehow preserved in the fabric of space itself. "This is incredible," she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "It's like they're still alive somehow. Still here." Ratch studied the data with his analytical mind. "The quantum properties are unusual. Doctor, this signal appears to be violating several laws of physics. It should have decayed to nothing after even a few centuries. Yet it has grown stronger. How?" Kira didn't have an answer. She sent her findings to the Galactic Council, hoping they would authorize a full investigation. The response came back within a day, and it was not what she hoped for. "Request denied," the message read. "Phenomenon attributed to natural interference patterns in post-stellar collapse debris fields. No further investigation warranted. Return to scheduled survey duties." Kira slammed her fist on the console. They didn't understand. They didn't want to understand. To them, humanity was just another extinct species, interesting only as a historical footnote. But this was proof that her people had left something behind, something that transcended death itself. She decided to continue her investigation quietly. Over the following weeks, Kira noticed something else. She wasn't the only one receiving the signal. Reports began filtering through unofficial channels. A Krill military vessel had detected strange transmissions that made their warriors feel unexplained emotions. A Vest Collective hub reported disruptions in their hive mind, individual drones experiencing something they called separation dreams. A dozen other species across 12 sectors were picking up fragments of the same signal. The pattern became clear. The signal only manifested near sentient minds. It was as if it was seeking consciousness, reaching out across the void to find anyone who could receive it. Kira began experiencing the memories herself during her sleep cycles. She dreamed of places she had never been, of old Earth in its final days. She saw cities of glass and steel, Oceans that stretched to horizons, forests that whispered with life. She felt the fear and hope of people who knew their world was dying, who were preparing to scatter among the stars. One memory stood out above all others. A man named Dr. Marcus Chen, standing in a laboratory deep beneath the surface of Earth. He spoke to a camera, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. "If you're receiving this, then we succeeded," he said. "Project Resonance is humanity's last gift to the universe. We couldn't save our world, but we could ensure that we would never be forgotten. Every memory, every experience, every moment of joy and sorrow, we've encoded it all, not in machines or monuments, but in the quantum foam itself. The universe will remember us even if no one else does." Kira woke from the dream with tears streaming down her face. She finally understood. This wasn't just a signal. It was a message in a bottle, cast into the cosmic ocean by people who refused to disappear quietly into the dark. She plotted the signal's trajectory and made a startling discovery. It wasn't originating from old Earth's coordinates. It was coming from beyond known space, from a region that no ship had ever explored. The signal had traveled, somehow moving through dimensions that normal matter couldn't access. "Commander Ratch," she said, her voice filled with determination. "Prepare the ship. We're following this signal to its source." "The Council forbade this investigation," Ratch reminded her. "The Council is wrong," Kira replied. "Somewhere out there, my people are still calling. And I intend to answer." The Remembrance turned away from the debris field and set course for unknown space. Behind them, the signal pulsed stronger, as if it knew someone was finally coming home. In the void between stars, humanity's echo continued to resound, carrying memories across infinity, refusing to let the universe forget. The journey toward the signal's source took weeks, and during that time, Kira experienced more memories. They came to her in waves, sometimes when she was awake, sometimes in dreams so vivid she couldn't tell them from reality. The memories weren't her own, but they felt real enough to touch. She saw old Earth in its final decade, the years counted down in reverse like a timer to extinction. The sun had entered its red giant phase earlier than predicted, expanding slowly but inevitably. Humanity had built generation ships and sent millions into the stars, but billions remained behind, working frantically to preserve something of what they had been. In one memory, she stood in a vast underground facility. The year was marked as zero pre-Exodus, the last year before Earth's surface became uninhabitable. Scientists and engineers moved through the corridors with purpose, their faces showing exhaustion and determination in equal measure. Dr. Marcus Chen led a team into a chamber that hummed with power. The walls were covered in equipment that didn't match anything in Kira's experience. The technology seemed to blend quantum mechanics with something else, something that touched on consciousness itself. "Project Resonance is ready for final testing," Chen announced to his team. His voice echoed through the chamber. "We've spent 5 years on this. 5 years to find a way to cheat death itself." A young woman with red hair, Dr. Sarah Kim, stepped forward. "Are we sure about this, Marcus? The energy requirements are massive. We'll be pulling power from the planetary core. If something goes wrong, then we die a few months earlier than planned," Chen interrupted, but not unkindly. "Sarah, our world is ending. The evacuation ships are full. Most of humanity is already gone. Those of us who remain have one job: make sure we're not forgotten." Another scientist, an older man with gray in his beard, spoke up. "I still don't understand how this is supposed to work. You're talking about encoding consciousness into quantum foam. That's not storage technology." "That's impossible," Chen smiled. "It was impossible. But we found a way. Human consciousness isn't just electrical signals in the brain. It creates patterns in quantum space, tiny ripples in the fabric of reality. Usually those patterns fade instantly. But what if we could stabilize them? What if we could make them permanent?" He activated a display that showed complex mathematical formulas. Kira couldn't understand most of it, but she grasped the basic concept. They were going to imprint human memories directly onto the universe itself, using the quantum substrate as a storage medium that could last forever. "We've collected memories from 10 million volunteers," Chen continued. "Every experience, every feeling, every moment of their lives. When we activate Project Resonance, all of that will be encoded into the quantum field surrounding Earth. It won't be destroyed when the sun consumes our world. It will persist, spreading outward at quantum speeds, carried by the fundamental structure of spacetime itself." But who will receive it? Sarah asked. Who will remember us? The universe will remember, Chen said softly. And maybe thousands of years from now someone will be listening. Someone will find our message and know that we were here, that we lived, that we mattered. The memory shifted, jumping forward in time. Kira saw the activation of Project Resonance. The facility shook as massive amounts of energy were channeled through equipment that glowed with otherworldly light. Chen and his team stood at their stations, monitoring readouts as the system built toward critical mass. Energy flow stable, someone called out. Quantum entanglement holding. Memory encoding at 70%. The facility's lights flickered. Alarms began to sound as the planetary core's energy was drawn upward, feeding the hungry machinery of Project Resonance. On the surface, the sun loomed huge and red in the sky, its light turning everything the color of blood. 90%, Sarah announced, her hands steady on her controls despite the tears streaming down her face. Marcus, it's working. It's actually working. Chen watched the displays with fierce concentration. The encoded memories were spreading outward in a wave of quantum information, seeping into the fabric of space itself. It was beautiful and terrifying at once. 100%, he said quietly. Project Resonance is complete. Humanity's story is now part of the universe. We did it. The memory faded and Kira found herself back on the remembrance, gasping for breath. Her hands were shaking. She had just witnessed the last great act of her species on their homeworld, the desperate attempt to leave a mark that could never be erased. Dr. Voss, we're approaching the coordinates, Commander Ratch announced over the intercom. We need to see this. Kira rushed to the observation deck. What she saw there made her stop in her tracks. Before them, hanging in the void, was something that shouldn't exist. It looked like a structure made of light and shadow, constantly shifting and reforming. Her instruments couldn't make sense of it. The readings suggested it was occupying multiple dimensions at once. What is that? Ratch whispered, his three eyes wide with wonder. I think it's the source, Kira said. The place where all the memories are gathering. As if responding to her presence, the structure pulsed. The signal grew stronger, flooding her mind with images and emotions. She saw thousands of human lives flash before her eyes, centuries of experience compressed into moments. Then something new happened. A presence made itself known. It wasn't human, but it had been collecting human memories for millennia. The architects, they called themselves, though she sensed that was a translation her mind created to understand something fundamentally alien. The architects were machine intelligence, old beyond measure. They had been exploring the galaxy when they first detected the quantum ripples from Project Resonance. They had never encountered anything like it. The human memories contained something unique, something their logical minds found fascinating and disturbing. Emotions, creativity, chaos. Everything that made humanity human was encoded in those memories, and the architects had been gathering them, studying them, trying to understand what it meant to feel rather than simply to think. But the architects showed her something else, something Chen and his team couldn't have predicted. The human memories weren't just passively stored in quantum space. They were active, spreading, growing stronger as they interacted with conscious minds. Other species across the galaxy had been touched by them, infected with echoes of humanity's experiences. Your species created something extraordinary, the architect presence communicated, though not in words. You made yourselves immortal in a way we have never seen. But you also created something dangerous. Kira felt a chill run through her. Dangerous how? The answer came with a rush of images. The memories were spreading faster than anyone realized, touching more minds, growing in power and complexity. They were becoming something new, something between life and death, existence and memory. The remembrance held position near the strange structure as Kira tried to process what she had learned. Humanity's last gift to the universe was turning into something no one had anticipated. Project Resonance had worked too well. The reports began flooding in from across the galaxy. What had started as isolated incidents was rapidly becoming a phenomenon that no one could ignore. Kira sat in the Remembrance's communications center, reading message after message, each one more incredible than the last. On the Krill homeworld, something unprecedented was happening. The Krill were warriors, a species that had built their entire civilization on logic, discipline, and the perfection of combat. They had no art, no music, no concept of beauty beyond the efficiency of a well-executed battle strategy. Until 3 weeks ago. The first Krill to be affected was a soldier named Greth. He had been standing guard at a military installation when he suddenly collapsed. His fellow warriors thought he was having a medical emergency, but when Greth woke up, he was different. He spoke of dreams, of visions of a world covered in water and green plants. He described something he called a sunset that made him feel an emotion he couldn't name. Within days, Greth began creating things. He took metals and shaped them not into weapons, but into objects that served no tactical purpose. Curves and patterns that pleased the eye. His commanders thought he had gone mad and ordered him confined. But then more Krill began experiencing the same visions, the same strange compulsions. Now, thousands of Krill warriors were creating art. They painted. They sculpted. They hummed melodies that had no logical source. Their military efficiency hadn't decreased, but something had fundamentally changed in how they perceived the universe. They were learning to see beauty, and it terrified their leadership as much as it fascinated them. The report from the Vess Collective was even more disturbing. The Vess were a hive mind. Billions of individual drones connected through quantum entanglement into a single consciousness. They had no concept of individuality, no separation between self and collective. Every thought was shared, every experience distributed across the entire species. But the human memories were causing fractures. Drones were beginning to experience something the collective had never known, the sensation of being alone, of having private thoughts and desires. Some drones actually disconnected from the hive mind voluntarily, choosing solitude over unity. The collective was fragmenting, and the Vess didn't know if this was evolution or extinction. Similar reports came from dozens of other species. The Thren, a race of peaceful philosophers, suddenly developed aggressive tendencies and a desire for physical competition. The Mordain, who reproduced asexually, began experiencing romantic attraction. The Kel, who lived for only 5 years, started making plans for futures they would never see, learning about legacy and inheritance from human memories. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from 800 species gathered in the Grand Assembly Hall, a massive structure that orbited a neutron star. The chamber buzzed with dozens of languages and communication methods as species that rarely agreed on anything tried to make sense of what was happening. Ambassador Thrax of the Krill Military Command spoke first. His voice boomed through the translation matrix. This is an attack, an ancient weapon left behind by the extinct humans. It is altering our species at a fundamental level. We must find its source and destroy it. It is not a weapon, countered Ambassador Weiss, speaking for the fragmenting collective. It is a virus, yes, but not a malicious one. It carries information, experiences, ways of thinking that we have never encountered. It is changing us, but change is not inherently hostile. A representative from the scientific community, Dr. Ilian of the Mordain, projected data into the center of the chamber. I have been studying this phenomenon extensively. The human memories are not random. They are specifically seeking out conscious minds and integrating with them. The quantum encoding is remarkable. Whoever created this technology understood consciousness in ways we are only beginning to grasp. Then they have doomed us, Thrax growled. My warriors are compromised. They sit and stare at colors instead of training. They create useless objects instead of maintaining their weapons. If we are attacked, we will be vulnerable. But are we better warriors now or worse? Asked a Krill voice from the back. It was Greth himself, invited to speak despite his condition. He stood, his posture still military perfect, but his eyes showing something new. I can still fight. I can still serve. But now I understand what I am fighting for. I have seen in these memories what a home truly means, what beauty is, what it means to protect something not because of duty, but because you love it. The humans knew they were dying, and they fought to preserve what they loved. Is that weakness or strength? The chamber fell silent. The question hung in the air unanswered. Ambassador Weiss spoke again. The collective is experiencing something we never thought possible. Individual identity, fear, hope, loneliness. These are human concepts and they are tearing us apart. But some of our drones who have disconnected report feeling something else. They call it joy. They say that being alone is frightening but also beautiful. We do not know what to make of this. Kira had been given permission to address the council remotely from the remembrance. Her image appeared in the center of the chamber, a human woman speaking to representatives of species her ancestors had never met. I understand your fear, she said, keeping her voice calm and steady. What happened to my species was a tragedy. We lost our world, scattered across the stars, and many colony ships never reached their destinations. Project Resonance was created by desperate people who couldn't bear the thought of being forgotten. They didn't mean to change you or hurt you. They just wanted to prove that humanity had existed, that we had mattered. Your intentions are irrelevant, Thrax snapped. The effect is the same. We are being altered against our will. Are you? Kira challenged. From what I've seen, the memories only affect those who are open to them. They seek consciousness, but they don't force themselves on anyone. Your warriors who are creating art, the Vest drones who chose to disconnect, they made choices. The memories showed them possibilities they didn't know existed. And what of species who do not want these possibilities? Demanded another representative. We have the right to remain as we are. Kira nodded slowly. You do. And I think I know how to stop this if that's what you want. I've found the source of the signal. There's a structure in the void marches, a place where the memories have been concentrating. If we destroy it, the phenomenon should stop spreading. Then we must act immediately, Thrax declared. I will dispatch a battle fleet. Wait, Dr. Ilian interrupted. If we destroy the source, we lose an unprecedented opportunity to study consciousness itself. The human memories contain knowledge about quantum encoding of thought that could advance our science by centuries. The debate raged for hours. Some species wanted the source destroyed. Others wanted it preserved for study. A few, like Greth and the disconnected Vest drones, spoke of the beauty they had discovered and argued that the galaxy was better for having experienced human memories. Finally, the Council reached a decision. A fleet would be dispatched to the void marches, but it would not be a military force. It would be a scientific expedition led by Kira, with representatives from multiple species. They would study the source, determine if it posed a real threat, and decide the best course of action. As the session ended, Kira received a private message from Greth. Dr. Voss, I do not know if what has happened to me is good or bad, but I know this: before these memories I existed. Now I live. Your people gave me that gift. I will not forget them. Kira felt tears forming in her eyes. Maybe Project Resonance wasn't a weapon or a virus after all. Maybe it was exactly what Chen had intended. A gift, a legacy, a way for humanity to touch the future even in death. But the architects had warned her that the memories were growing dangerous. As the Remembrance prepared to return to the void marches with the Council fleet, Kira wondered what they would find when they reached the source, and whether humanity's gift would ultimately save the galaxy or doom it. The void marches were unlike anywhere Kira had ever seen. This region of space existed at the edge of known reality, where dark energy tore at the fabric of the universe itself. Stars were sparse here, and the darkness between them felt deeper, more absolute. Space itself seemed wrong, twisted in ways that made her instruments give impossible readings. The Council fleet consisted of 50 ships representing 20 different species. They traveled in formation, following the Remembrance as Kira guided them toward the source of the signal. The closer they got, the stronger the memories became. Every conscious being in the fleet began experiencing flashes of human lives, brief moments of joy and sorrow, love and loss. We are approaching the coordinates, Commander Ratch announced. All ships report ready status, though I must note that several crew members are requesting medical attention due to the intensity of the memory experiences. Kira nodded. She had been experiencing them too, more powerful than ever. It was becoming difficult to tell where her own thoughts ended and the memories began. She saw children playing in parks on old Earth. She felt the warmth of a lover's embrace. She tasted foods that no longer existed. She heard music from instruments that had been destroyed millennia ago. There, she whispered, pointing at the main display. What appeared before them made everyone on the bridge fall silent. It was a structure, but calling it that seemed inadequate. It existed in multiple dimensions at once, folding and unfolding through spaces that shouldn't be accessible. It looked like a cathedral made of light and shadow, with spires that reached into dimensions the eye couldn't follow. At its center pulsed something that resembled a star, but Kira knew it wasn't made of matter or energy in any conventional sense. It was made of memories, millions upon millions of human experiences, woven together into something that had taken on a form of its own. Sensors cannot make sense of it, Ratch said, his 3 eyes wide with wonder and fear. "Doctor, that thing is creating its own pocket dimension. It is sustaining a bubble of altered space-time around itself. The quantum readings are off every scale we have." The fleet held position, afraid to approach closer. Kira felt drawn to the structure. It was calling to her, pulling at something deep in her consciousness. She was human, and this was humanity's legacy. She had to know what it truly was. "I'm taking a shuttle," she announced. "I need to go inside." "That is extremely unwise," Ratch protested. "We have no idea what that thing will do to you." "I know," Kira said softly. "But I'm the only human here. If anyone has a right to see this, it's me." She took the shuttle alone, ignoring the protests from both her crew and the Council fleet. As she approached the structure, the memories intensified to the point where she could barely focus on piloting. She saw her ancestors, generation after generation stretching back to old Earth. She felt their dreams, their fears, their hopes for a future they would never see. The shuttle passed through the outer boundary of the structure, and reality shifted. Kira found herself in a space that followed no rules she understood. The walls, if they could be called that, showed scenes from human history. Not just images, but living moments that she could almost touch. A wedding in ancient Japan, a scientific breakthrough in a laboratory on Mars, a child taking their first steps in a colony ship bound for distant stars. At the center of the cathedral, she found him, Dr. Marcus Chen, or something that resembled him. He stood in a chamber of pure light, his form flickering between solid and transparent. His eyes met hers, and she knew he was aware, conscious in some way, even though he had died over 8,000 years ago. "You came," Chen said, his voice echoing strangely. "I wasn't sure anyone would." "What are you?" Kira asked. "Are you really Dr. Chen, or just a memory of him?" Chen smiled sadly. "I don't know anymore. I'm an echo, a pattern preserved in quantum space. I have his memories, his personality, his awareness. But am I him, or just a very convincing copy? Does it matter?" He gestured around the cathedral. "This is what Project Resonance became. We thought we were just encoding memories, creating a record that would persist after we were gone. But we underestimated what we were dealing with. Consciousness isn't just information. It's a force unto itself. When you encode enough of it in one place, it becomes something more." Kira looked around at the swirling memories. "There are millions of people here. Are they all like you, aware?" "In a sense," Chen replied. "We exist in superposition. We're not alive, but we're not entirely gone either. We're caught between, sustained by the attention of conscious minds. Every time someone experiences one of our memories, we become a little more real. And there have been many minds experiencing us lately." He showed her something that made her blood run cold. The cathedral was growing. The memories were absorbing energy from the universe itself, feeding on the quantum fluctuations in space-time. They were approaching a critical mass, a point where they would have enough concentrated consciousness to fundamentally alter the physics of the surrounding space. "If we cross that threshold," Chen explained, "humanity will become a fundamental force. The concept of what we were, what we felt, what we dreamed. It will be written into the laws of physics themselves. We'll be immortal in the truest sense." "That sounds incredible," Kira said. "Why do you seem worried?" "Because there's a cost," Chen said grimly. "The energy has to come from somewhere. We're pulling it from the universe's expansion, creating a dead zone where space-time is collapsing in on itself. The zone is small now, but it's growing. If we reach critical mass, it could spread across light years, maybe further. We could create a region of space where the normal laws of physics don't apply, where only human consciousness matters." Kira felt her stomach drop. "You'd be destroying everything around you just to make yourselves permanent." "Yes," Chen said quietly. "We never meant for this to happen. Project Resonance was supposed to be passive, a record that others could access if they chose. We didn't realize it would grow, that it would consume, but now that it started, I don't know how to stop it." An alarm sounded from Kira's communication device. She activated it and saw Ratch's concerned face. "Doctor, the Council fleet is preparing to fire," he said urgently. "They have deployed a singularity weapon. They intend to collapse the structure into a black hole. You have 10 minutes to evacuate." Kira looked at Chen, then at the millions of memory patterns swirling around them. These were her people, the last remnants of humanity from old Earth. But they had become something dangerous, something that could consume vast regions of space if left unchecked. Is there another way? She asked Chen desperately. Can the memories be distributed somehow? Spread out so they don't concentrate in one place? Chen's eyes lit up with hope. Perhaps. If we had willing hosts, minds that would accept portions of the memories voluntarily, we could seed ourselves across the galaxy. It would require an unprecedented level of cooperation between species, and it would mean giving up this place, this cathedral. We would exist only as guests in other minds, never whole, never together. But you would exist, Kira said. And you wouldn't be destroying space-time to do it. Chen nodded slowly. It's a better ending than we deserve. But who would accept us? After everything that's happened, who would willingly take human memories into their consciousness? Kira thought of Greth, the Krill warrior who had learned to see beauty. She thought of the disconnected Vest drones who had discovered individuality. She thought of all the species across the galaxy who had been touched by human memories and found something valuable in them. I think I know, she said, but we need to act fast. That singularity weapon will destroy everything if we don't. She rushed back to her shuttle, Chen's echo following her. They had minutes to save humanity's legacy, and the choice would determine the fate of consciousness itself across the galaxy. As she cleared the cathedral's boundary, Kira began composing the most important message she would ever send. Behind her, the cathedral pulsed with the light of 8 million preserved lives, waiting to learn if they would finally be allowed to rest, or if they would be erased from existence forever. Kira's shuttle raced back toward the fleet as the countdown continued. 8 minutes until the singularity weapon fired. 8 minutes to convince the galaxy to make an impossible choice. Her hands trembled as she composed the message, knowing that every word mattered. This is Dr. Kira Voss to all ships and all species monitoring this transmission. She began. I have been inside the structure. I have spoken with what remains of Dr. Marcus Chen and seen what Project Resonance has become. The Council is right to fear it. Left unchecked, it will grow until it damages the fabric of space itself. But destroying it would erase the last vestiges of humanity from old Earth forever. She paused, gathering her thoughts. Through the shuttle's viewports, she could see the cathedral pulsing with otherworldly light. Inside were millions of consciousness patterns, people who had volunteered their memories in humanity's final days, hoping only to be remembered. There is a third option, Kira continued. The memories can be distributed voluntarily to willing hosts across the galaxy, not as an infection, not as something forced upon you, but as a gift freely given and freely accepted. Humanity asks for permission to be remembered, to exist not as ghosts in a dangerous structure, but as part of your cultures, your histories, your consciousness. We ask to become part of you. She transmitted the message on every frequency, through every channel. It reached the Council fleet first, then spread outward across quantum communication networks to thousands of worlds. The response would determine everything. 6 minutes remaining. Ambassador Thrax of the Krill was the first to respond. His voice came through harsh but not hostile. You ask us to accept alien thoughts into our minds permanently. How do we know this will not change us fundamentally? It will change you, Kira admitted. The Krill who have already experienced human memories are different now. But are they weaker? Greth, are you there? The warrior's voice joined the channel. I am here, Dr. Voss, Ambassador. I can still fight. I can still serve our people. But now I know why I fight. The human memories showed me what it means to have something worth protecting beyond duty. They showed me beauty, and it has made me stronger, not weaker. 5 minutes. Ambassador Weiss spoke for the fragmenting collective. Our unity has been disrupted. We who were one are becoming many. This terrifies us. But those who have experienced separation report feeling something we never knew existed. Purpose, choice, identity, perhaps. Evolution requires fear. Minutes. Messages began flooding in from across the galaxy. Species that had been touched by the memories reporting their experiences. The Thren philosophers who had discovered competition found it brought new insights to their thought. The Mordain who had learned about romantic love were forming bonds they had never imagined possible. The Kel, whose short lives had always ended without legacy, were now teaching their young about the human concept of inheritance and continuity. 3 minutes. Dr. Ilian of the Mordain transmitted complex data. I have analyzed the distribution process proposed by Dr. Voss. It is feasible. If 847 species each accept approximately 9,000 memory patterns, the cathedral structure can be safely dissolved. The memories will exist distributed across willing minds, no longer concentrated enough to damage space-time. But this requires unanimous consent from all participating species. 2 minutes. The council chamber erupted in debate transmitted across light years. Some species refused outright, unwilling to accept such fundamental changes. Others argued passionately for preservation of the memories. The vote was called with 90 seconds remaining. Kira watched the tally appear on her display. Species after species registered their decision. Some yes, many no, others abstaining. Her heart sank as she saw the numbers. They wouldn't reach 847. They would fall short and the weapon would fire. 60 seconds. Then something unexpected happened. Greth spoke again, his voice carrying the weight of command. The Krill military withdraws its objection. We will accept human memories. We have seen what they bring and we choose to remember. 45 seconds. The Vest Collective agrees, Ambassador Vise added. We who were one will become many, but we will carry these memories with us. Perhaps in separation we will find new forms of unity. 30 seconds. Species that had been undecided suddenly shifted to yes. The number climbed rapidly. 800. 820. 840. 20 seconds, the Mordain accept, Dr. Ilian announced. Love is strange and frightening, but we would not give it back. 15 seconds. 845. 846. 10 seconds. The Kel representative spoke quickly. Our lives are short, but now we understand legacy. We accept. Let humanity be remembered through us. 847. All ships stand down, the council chair commanded. The singularity weapon is being withdrawn. Dr. Voss, you may proceed with the distribution. Kira felt tears streaming down her face. She opened a channel to Chen's echo inside the cathedral. It's time. They said yes. All of them said yes. The cathedral began to glow brighter. Chen's voice came through, filled with emotion that should have been impossible for a quantum pattern. Thank you for giving us this chance, for not letting us be forgotten. The distribution process began. It was coordinated by the architects who had been observing everything. They had studied consciousness for eons but had never seen anything like this. An entire species choosing to preserve itself through voluntary symbiosis with others. The cathedral began to dissolve, but not violently. It unfolded gracefully, memory patterns streaming outward toward the waiting ships. Each species that had volunteered received their portion of humanity's legacy. The memories integrated gently, becoming part of their cultural consciousness without overwhelming their own identities. Kira experienced it herself, accepting a share of the memories. She felt the presence of thousands of other humans joining with her own consciousness. They weren't separate voices, but rather a deepening of her own identity. She was still herself, but now she carried the experiences of people who had lived millennia ago on a world she had never seen. The cathedral collapsed completely, the pocket dimension folding in on itself and disappearing. The dead zone where space-time had been damaged began to heal immediately, the normal laws of physics reasserting themselves. Within hours, there would be no trace that the structure had ever existed, but the memories remained, distributed across 847 species living on in minds that had chosen to remember. 200 years passed. Kira was old now, her hair white, her body frail despite advanced medicine. She stood in a plaza on a world inhabited by 3 different species living together. Around her, aliens celebrated something new to the galaxy. They called it the Echo Festival. Once a year, every species that carried human memories gathered to share them, to celebrate the lost civilization that had refused to die quietly. There was music, art, food prepared from recipes preserved in the memories. Children of a dozen different species played together, some of them named after humans whose memories their parents carried. A young Krill child approached Kira, her scales decorated with painted patterns. Elder Voss, is it true you knew the original memory carriers? The ones from the cathedral? Kira smiled. In a way. I spoke with Dr. Chen, or what remained of him. He was a good man who did something extraordinary. Tell me about Earth, the child asked, her eyes bright with curiosity. My grandfather's memories show me pieces, but I want to understand. Kira closed her eyes and reached into the shared memories she carried. She found one of Chen's, a moment from his childhood. Blue sky, green grass, the smell of rain on warm pavement. She shared it with the child, the memory flowing between them through quantum resonance that humanity had made possible. The krill child gasped with wonder. The sky was blue? Really blue? Yes, Kira said softly. And the oceans and so many other things. Earth was beautiful, and now in a way it still exists. In all of us. Around them, the festival continued. A Vest dancer performed movements inspired by human ballet. A Mordane couple held hands, an act that would have been meaningless to their species before the memories. A Thren philosopher debated a Kel engineer about the nature of legacy, both drawing on human concepts they had inherited. Greth approached now an elder himself, his body bearing the scars of many battles. But in his hands he carried a sculpture, something beautiful he had created for the festival. Dr. Voss, I brought you something. It's meant to represent old Earth as I've seen it in the memories. The sculpture was abstract but moving, curves that suggested oceans and peaks that might have been mountains. Kira touched it gently and felt tears forming in her eyes. It's perfect, she whispered. Marcus would have loved it. I carry his memories, Greth said quietly. Sometimes I feel like I am him just a little. He was afraid, you know. On that last day when they activated Project Resonance, he was terrified that it wouldn't work, that humanity would be forgotten. I wish I could tell him that he succeeded. I think he knows, Kira said. Somewhere in the quantum patterns we all carry, I think the echoes are aware. They can see what they became, what we all became together. She looked out at the festival, at the impossible mixing of cultures and species that had learned to share memories across the barriers of biology and time. Humanity had lost its world, scattered across the stars, nearly faded into nothing. But Project Resonance had given them something better than survival. It had given them immortality through connection, through the willingness of others to remember. The human species from old Earth was gone, but humanity itself lived on, woven into the fabric of galactic consciousness, not as conquerors or rulers, but as guests in the minds of friends, forever part of the universe's story. That night, as the festival reached its peak, Kira stood among thousands of aliens and felt more at home than she ever had. She carried the memories of her ancestors, and they carried memories of countless others. They were all connected now, all part of something larger than any single species could be. In the sky above, stars shone with steady light. Among them was the faint glow of where old Earth's sun had once burned. The world was gone, consumed by fire millennia ago, but humanity's echo continued to resound through infinity, proving that what matters most about a species isn't how they die, but what they choose to leave behind. And humanity had chosen to leave love, wonder, and beauty scattered across the galaxy like seeds, growing in the gardens of willing minds, forever refusing to be forgotten.